The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Josh Thomas and I'm here with Daniel Yuabov of Carvoy.com. And Carvoy is an end-to-end e-commerce automotive marketplace. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And so let's jump right into it here. The market for buying, selling, leasing cars can be a very intimidating and frustrating process for consumers. And it sounds like you're aiming to solve that problem, or at least neutralize it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Carvoy and what you do.
Yeah, so basically the problem that we try to solve is by bringing transparency in the industry. One of the biggest industries is the automotive space, especially buying and leasing a new car. However, being the biggest industry, it actually has a ratio for the most unsatisfied customers. So everyone has their own horror story when they go into a dealership. And at Carboy, our founding principle was that it shouldn't be that way. Buying and leasing a car should be as transparent, seamless, and fun as buying something on Amazon. So we basically took that principle and that value and always have it in the back of our mind before we make any type of big decision.
So why do you think, just to kind of jump off track here for just a moment, why do you think that buying and selling and leasing a car, why do you think it is such a difficult experience now?
So I would say that right now it's actually improving, but for the majority of the time that buying, selling, leasing vehicles has been such a problem is because it was built to lack transparency. Like a lease, for example, doesn't even call, like there's no APR in a lease. It's called money factor or lease rate, and it's a decimal. And when you look at this lease rate, you think, oh, that's a fraction or a fraction. It's negligent. But you actually have to multiply it by 2,400 to actually get your interest rate. So I think the foundation of this industry was the lack of transparency. And that is what I think is really the core problem of a satisfied transaction.
Okay, makes sense. And so Carvoy solves this problem in what way?
So what we do is we basically bring the transparency by taking leverage of e-commerce. What we first do is we pull all the inventory from our dealerships. And what happens is that we basically convert everything. So we ask the dealers to preset a price, a selling price that they're comfortable with. After that, we make it into a very user-friendly and end-to-end e-commerce experience where the customers can basically build their own payment. And this is not like a payment calculator. This is a perfect penny deal based on the OEM rates and incentives. And after that, they're able to build a deal that they would like, set how much they want out of pocket. Everything changes in real time. And once they feel comfortable, then and only then do we ask for their information. And that's when it's like an Amazon checkout-like experience. They can press a button, enter where they would like the car delivered. Then they can upsell themselves with warranty and maintenance product. So once they get to that warranty and maintenance product, we give them full transparency what the APR, what the interest rate is on that. And if they don't understand what a money factor is, we send them to an article that we made ourselves to basically explain what's the process of leasing and what every term means in this industry, because it's very intimidating. So Once they understand everything, once they get to the next step, they upsell themselves, they choose their own product, and then they get approved online. So everything we try to do is entirely online, or they can come to the storefront where being a Carboy certified dealer is where they can leverage our technology in the storefront to give just an amazing experience.
You mentioned something in there, the perfect penny. Can you expand upon that a little bit? What does that mean?
So perfect penny deal is basically, have you ever purchased a car?
I have, many.
Okay. So I'm sure that you're used to when you see an advertisement online on a website and you take that and you go to them, they're like, well, it doesn't include taxes, it doesn't include fees, it doesn't include something else. This is something you're used to, right? So what we do is we incorporate all of that and incorporate your taxes. So we basically first ask for what's your zip code and what rebates you qualify for. Then we have our own proprietary technology which basically aggregates all that information and makes a perfect penny deal. So that means that the price that you see on your phone or your computer is the price that you're going to be paying, no more, no less, that to the penny.
Okay, got it. And is that, that was one thing that stood out there. Is this a proprietary technology, or does this exist in other places?
So we've seen attempts at building this type of technology in all across the industry, but to have it and give it into the consumer's controls in hand is the proprietary part, because all the dealer really has to do is set their price, and then the Carboy technology takes care of the rest. So the application is the unique part.
Okay, I got it. And so let's say I wanted to buy a new car of some sort. I go to your website and I fill out an application and I say I want to spend $20,000 on a car. And so it's going to learn enough about me to find out which cars I can get to the perfect penny of $20,000.
So you can do that, or you could also search by lease payment. So, and it's not a generic lease payment. You could literally drag a slider, set what lease payment, and it'll show you your results. You could also narrow it down by features. If you want Bluetooth, you want a navigation, you want some sort of specific package, or even if you want a specific car, it could also be narrowed by that. And on top of that, you could also specify what term you would want if it's a finance, or how many miles per year you would like if it's a lease. So we really give you all those filters to be able to really narrow it down. We don't ask for any information, any personal information, until you found the car that fits best for you.
Okay, excellent. And so how long has Carvoy been around, and how long have you been in development?
Carvoy has been in development, I would say, for the past 2.5 years. We've only really been consumer-facing for the past 1.5 years, and we've been really seeing very, very positive feedback from our consumers that are officially part of the Carvoy family.
So 2.5 years is a long time, and it's also not a long time. There was a long learning journey here. What were some of the unique challenges that you faced as you were putting this together?
So the first biggest problem was that you need to make sure to have everyone on board. The dealer has to be happy because the dealers own the vehicles, and the consumers have to be happy. They have to be satisfied, like they're getting a solid experience with this. So that the foundation that the auto industry was already on was a big challenge. The second thing is establishing that trust with that consumer, with our clients. The reason being was because it's built on such a disruptive and dishonest, foundation. So we wanted to basically help the consumers understand why leasing a car can be easy. And sometimes we actually lost consumers because it was too easy and they didn't trust that the price that they saw was the price that they would pay.
So they just walked away?
Problem. Well, there's no walking away online. They would just leave and never come back, I guess.
Do you think maybe they were just shopping or just curious about how the technology worked, or what do you think?
Not necessarily. So it was pretty intimidating for some consumers, especially in our earlier days when we didn't have many reviews and we didn't have much validation online. As they would say, well, they would go to the dealer and the dealer says, oh, you're just going to steal my data. And we're like, no, that's not our goal. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to pay whatever at the dealer because at least at the end of the day, I have someone to blame. So facilitating it's not just human. It's like, I feel like the disgruntled customers goes down by DNA at this point, because like even the millennials are aware of this experience and try to avoid having this type of experience at the dealership. So it's something we can't control, especially in the beginning. We really have to establish that trust. Right now, we don't really face this problem as much. It's actually very, very rare because we already have that validation that we're not going to steal your information, just run away. We're here to stay, and we're here to really make a big difference on how consumers shop for cars.
Okay. And, back to the original comments the feedback comments on both sides. How do I know you're not just going to steal my data? And the consumer comment of, well, at least I'll have someone to blame. Let's dig into that. Dig into that a little bit more. How do you overcome such an obtuse comment?
So how do I know we're not going to steal your data? I would say, well, that's a great question. We actually don't store any personal data on our servers. We hand it off directly to the financing software vendor, whoever that may be for that specific dealer. So their personal information is not even stored on us, and we can't steal it. It's not ours. And on top of that, we encrypt it, and we require 2 factors of authentication for anyone to be able to touch this data. So on the consumer side, they're good, they're secure. And would you be able to clarify your question for the dealer side?
You mentioned about on the consumer side, I'm just going to take my chance. At least I have somebody to blame.
I see.
Tell me about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's still just part about trust. What we've noticed is that consumers still like kicking and feeling the tire because you're committing to something for a longer time. It's not just something that you're going to get today and tomorrow you're going to be gone with it. It's a lease or it's a finance, minimum of 2 years, maximum of whatever, 6, 7, 8 years. So they want to make sure that they have the trust that if something does go wrong, who's going to be there to support. And I feel like often new companies across all sectors will struggle with this problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's one thing that the internet really can't solve is, for me personally, if I'm going to make a gigantic purchase or a long commitment like that, especially a car, I want to sit in it, feel it, see, can I reach the radio and all those things that I just can't tell without actually being there. And I would imagine that's a very difficult challenge for you to overcome.
Yeah, so that's a very, very good point. So that we love feedback at Carboy, and our main goal is to impact the auto industry at large. How can we make the biggest impact and make both dealers and consumers satisfied at scale? And we realize that to do this well and effectively is that we need to partner with the dealers in a more integrated manner. So in the future, we're planning to launch something called Carvoy Ignite. And essentially what Carvoy Ignite is going to ignite the dealer's storefront. So we're going to take our technology and put it on the dealer's website and in the dealer's showroom. So basically, the dealerships will now have the ability to take online orders, and if the consumer is worried about the vehicle, they could actually go in store and see this actual vehicle before committing to everything. Before committing to anything, they already saw the price, they already understand what they're getting themselves into. Now they're just going in to verify, and they'll complete the transaction in person using our tech.
Interesting. Okay. And so, where do you see, as you're developing technology that you're wanting to have an impact on the automotive industry at scale, as you mentioned? What do you see as the future of the automotive industry? Let's fast forward, 5 years. So, how does the landscape change at that point?
I think the biggest game changer is going to be how dealers sell cars. So consumers are being more knowledgeable right now, and the biggest impact is the experience. Right now, we're in a more of a type of experience, generation where it's not necessarily what you pay, but it's how you feel. And that I feel like is going to be exactly translated in the automotive industry. So I feel like unhappy customers at that point is going to be much less, and there's going to be a way bigger space for digital retailing and e-commerce for the dealership in 5 years. So it's going to be a more seamless transaction-based industry.
Okay. And give me just a couple more examples of that. I know there's a significant amount of friction now where, there's this expectation of walking into a dealer and, picking out a car and then haggling with the salesperson and, all of their tactics. And, maybe not every place is like that, but it's kind of the general vibe that we get. Do you see that being impacted? Do you see the role of a salesperson on the lot? Do you see that changing based on technology?
I don't see that. I see that changing, but I don't see that as replacing. I feel that every salesperson is really going to be empowered with technology. It's going to be way easier for salespeople to be able to successfully sell cars, have happy customers with transparency. And I believe that transparency comes with technology.
Well said. So as we start to wrap up here, any final thoughts here, Daniel, for our audience about Carvoy or the industry in general?
No, I think I think this is the time that we're actually starting to see dealers come on board and agree that there needs to be a big change in this space. And we're just so happy to be a part of the journey.
Excellent. Carvoy.com. And is this is fully functional and people can go and interact with it and buy and sell and lease cars on there now?
Yeah, Carvoy.com. If you're in the market for a lease or you're in the market to get a vehicle, you could just go right on there for our future endeavors for Carvoy Ignite. That's going to be to be released, to be announced, and that will be in the next couple of months to come.
Excellent. Daniel Yuabov from Carvoy.com, thanks very much for joining us. That'll do it for this episode of the Future Tech Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me again.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.